Go ahead.
Okay. At the outset, let me thank Dr. Ismail and his office bearers for giving us this opportunity in for this adolescent CME. I'm going to deal about the risk-taking behavior in adolescence. So, what Dr. Ismail was telling about the practical aspects. So, let us. I think at the end of the session, we'll deal some practical aspects also. Dr. Swati Madam will deal about the practical aspects. I'll be going into the details of this risk-taking behavior, which is really a gray area. And for this betterment of the adolescent of the future of India, this is really necessary, as that's what I felt. So, according to World Health Organization, this is a phase which involves the progression from appearance of secondary sexual characteristics to sexual and reproductive maturity, and also the development of adult mental process and identity, including the transition from total socio-economic dependence to relative independence. So the transition zone between childhood and adulthood is adolescence. We know the stages of adolescence: early, middle, and late. The late adolescence spilling over to even 21 to 23 years. So the early adolescence is a stage for the involvement in different kinds of high risk behaviors, since they are easily influenced during this vulnerable period. This is the period where they should be captured for health prevention. So, what is the definition of risk taking behavior? It is the behavior or activities that lead to mortality, morbidity, and social problems among adolescents. These actions that can affect one's physical, psychological, and emotional health. Such risky behavior usually results from lack of knowledge and understanding by the adolescents. This risky behavior or sensation seeking is when a decision to do an act is taken impulsively, without thinking, based only on feelings and desires. These acts have no planning but are encouraged as fun and daring, and often mistaken by the adolescents as adventure. I will later differentiate between the two. So, the risk taking behavior in adolescence can be considered a normal developmental process because they outgrow it. Some risk taking behaviors lead to serious consequences, while others can be corrected. It is also imperative to note that risk taking behavior varies with cultural factors, individual personality, the needs, social influences, pressures, and available opportunities. So here, risk taking should not be confused with rebellion. Rebellion involves moving away from their parents. Risk taking is about moving towards something without thinking of the consequences. Of course, sometimes the line differentiating between the two can be murky. So adventure is a calculated risk where one does something out of the realm of routine in a novel way with creativity and planning. Of course, they require practice and a lot of skills. The adolescents often take risks without being fully aware of the consequences. They can make poor decisions, but that may put them at risk and leave them vulnerable to various hazards. By understanding them and their vulnerabilities, the adolescents have to be given the life skills that empower them so that we can cater to their needs. The clusters of risky behaviors, two of them are smoking will go on to alcohol, then drug abuse go on to the sexuality part of it. So depression will perpetuate suicide. So these two are the clusters involved. So what are those behaviors like? Substance abuse, as I said, sexual behaviors which contains the unwanted and unsafe sex, sexual abuse and exploitation, infections, teenage pregnancy, school failures and dropouts, living on the streets. Of course, accidents and injuries are very common. Adolescent suicide and depression is very common for trivial reasons, just for love affair, love failures, violence and aggression. So the others are dangerous driving, unhealthy eating, running away, staying away all night, unprotected sexual activity, selfie in dangerous locations, shoplifting, gang violence, weapons, bullying, dangerous dieting. So the brain development during adolescence is required to be known first. So we'll go into this study by Christine Ferg and Peter. Findings in the developmental psychology and neuroscience reveal that a fundamental reorganization of the brain takes place in adolescence. In the postnatal brain development, the maximum density of gray matter is reached first in the primary sensory motor cortex, and the prefrontal cortex matures last. So the subcortical brain areas, especially the limbic system and the reward system, develop earlier, so that there is an imbalance between the more mature subcortical areas and the less mature prefrontal areas. So this accounts for the typical adolescent behavior patterns, including risk-taking, totally so many other adolescent behavior patterns, including body image and so many other factors. This is the basis. The adolescent brain maturation is the one that contributes to it. So these adolescent brain maturation, this is which involves the interplay of two networks: the socio-emotional network, which is sensitive to social and emotional stimuli, which is particularly important for reward processing and is remodeled in early adolescence by the pubertal changes. They are localized in the limbic and paralimbic systems, limbic areas, the amygdala, ventricular striatum, etc. And so the cognitive control network is the other network which develops later, which observes the executive functions, planning, thinking ahead, self-regulation. It matures gradually. So this is situated in the outer areas of the brain, the lateral prefrontal and parietal cortices. So the nature of the adolescent depends on the interplay and interaction between these two networks. The balance between, because the adolescent is emotional, so vulnerable because of these delayed maturation of the cognitive control network, usually by 21 to 23 years. So in this graph, you will see that the limbic areas is, because the limbic areas is prone initially, so they develop earlier. So the prefrontal cortex develops later. The risky phase is there. So the maturation process in between the two leads to the imbalance. So the time-lapse brain here, the gray matter wanes as the brain matures. So from age 5, you can see gradually at 20, you see the MRI sequence of the brains at the age 5 and age 20. So the following image shows that the brain doesn't change much in size between age 5 and 20. Only the changes in the color. The blue color shows that all the connections happening between all parts of the brain that are already formed. So the recent MRIs have really revolutionized the scientific thinking by emphasizing the neurobiological underpinnings of human adolescent behavior, in addition to the numerous psychosocial explanation of behavioral change, according to Steinberg et al. So because of the imbalance in maturation of these two social networks, the adolescent is confused and concerned and really vulnerable. So they have a very problematic peer relationship, and due to peer pressure, they do all sorts of risky behaviors. The relationship with parents is actually questionable, and they move away from parents, go towards the friends, and the gender roles, of course, they have to orientate with them. The self-esteem declines. The media influence is always influencing them always. The influence of peers on this risky behavior in this graph, you see that when they are alone in the early adolescent, you can see it is less. But as the peer pressure increases, the early adolescence is vulnerable. But the other age group, we can see a decreased risky behavior. So the reason for the risky behavior is the lack of skills necessary for adulthood. Working and communicating with others, they are not able to understand themselves. They make because of their indecisiveness. So life skills in adolescence are the skills and competencies needed to build or adopt positive behaviors that will enable them to deal effectively with the challenges of day-to-day life. So this is a study for the risk-taking behavior among adolescents and their attachment with parents and peers. The results shows that females were more attached with their parents and peers in comparison to males. The sexual activities were found to be higher among males than females. But nowadays, I think it is the gap is being narrowed down, and of course, I think it is becoming equal. We require more studies. It was found that in females that the desire of indulging in substance abuse and sexual activity was low, but the practicality is the other way behind. So thus the positive peer pressure was found helpful in keeping females away from risk-taking behavior. So here the early adolescence is singled out as a critical moment of opportunity for building skills and positive habits, since at that age there is the early development or the starting of the development of abstract thinking. Till then they were concrete thinkers. So they will start to understand the consequences and try to solve problems. So the life skills will translate into positive behaviors that promote health, mental well-being, and good social relationships. So the most important life skills are here for to avoid risk-taking behavior are assertiveness and decision making. So what are the domains where the maladaptive outcomes of the risk because of the risk factors? In the individual domain, you have because of the personality variables and developmental delays, you will have problems. Family, there's a family conflict, mental illness in the family, coercive parenting always, you will have this risk behaviors. The peer rejection and deviant peer group membership will have problems. The school academy in the school, they will have this academic failure or a low commitment to the school, and community will also be responsible what community they are in, the neighborhood. Poverty is also a problem concern. So protective factors for protecting them from not indulging in risk behaviors is the strong sense of connectedness to parents, family, school, community, institutions, and adults outside the family. So this will protect them from involving into risk-taking behaviors. The development and enhancement of academic and social competence, the involvement in extracurricular activities that create multiple friendship networks will be a barrier. So spirituality and prayer definitely will help the adolescents. So the assessment of the risk-taking behavior will be by the heads interview. So the management part of it will be adolescents should develop good assertion skills so that they'll be able to say no to anything unethical. They should decide to say no to drugs and premarital sex. Adolescents need an environment that gives nurturing guidance, rules, structures, clear expectations, and consistent limits. A safe and supportive environment motivates them to make healthy choices. Safe means absence of trauma, violence, and excessive stress and abuse. Supportive means that which provides a positive and close relationship with family, other adults, and peers. So the pediatrician's role, they should play a careful attention for a comprehensive risk assessment because these behaviors are associated with prediction and intervention of risky behaviors. They have a unique opportunity to intervene, to prevent and treat risk-taking behaviors. They must spot it, assess, refer, and manage problems, assist in fostering parental skills and interpersonal skills, guide in activities for school, peer groups, religious involvement, maintaining family events and rituals. They must focus on healthy and safety while assisting with healthy lifestyle choices. So gather approach for counseling. This is will be dealt later, but we'll have the basics. Ensuring confidentiality and privacy is crucial for all counseling sessions. Must greet the client, ask questions effectively in a friendly manner, tell the relevant information to help them reach a decision and make an informed choice, help the client to reach a decision and give other related information, explain about the method in detail, and when to return for review should be told. So the therapeutic interventions to reduce these behaviors are skills development, incorporating problem solving and decision making and negotiating, managing stresses, failures, and anger. So prevention will be expanding the adolescents' access to mental health and contraceptive services, raising the driving age and strict tests to issue licenses, limiting adolescent smoking, substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, and automobile accidents. So vigilantly enforcing laws and sale of alcohol. So what are the roles in schools? A structured program with flexibility and evolving content in schools for early adolescents around 10 years of age and extending to 18 years old. Schools should impart formal and non-formal education. They must increase the co-curricular, non-curricular, and cultural activities. So what parents can do, reinforce and support the desirable behavior, give many chances to learn and practice positive behaviors and skills. Provide effective instruction in academic and social aspects. So monitor and be involved. Monitor adolescents' daily activities. Listen to the youth's ideas and concerns. Make clear rules and gently and consistently enforce them. Set limits on screen time and media content. Structure positive sibling and peer interactions. Guide youth away from troublesome peers. So, what are the 7 feasible strategies? Support and strengthen family functioning. Increase connections between students and their schools. Make communities safe and supportive for children and youth. Promote involvement in high quality out of school time programs. Promote the development of sustained relationship with caring adults. Provide adolescents the opportunities to build social and emotional competence. Provide them with high quality education. So life skills are very important for the adolescents. They are the abilities for positive and adaptive behavior that can enable them to deal effectively with the demands and challenges of everyday life. So the positive thinking and self-control have to be inculcated. The life skills framework consists of thinking, social, and negotiation skills have to be taught. The whole gamut of life skills, leadership skills, assertiveness, and negotiation will be effective for the professional life later. Or the 10 core life skills should be inculcated. The parents, teachers, and significant adults should know about these life skills and teach the adolescents and give responsibility and freedom to the adolescents to devise their own life. And empowering the adolescent is important. Thank you for the opportunity, and over to Swati ma'am for the practical suggestions.
Thank you, Dr. Senthil. Thank you, Dr. Ismail, for having invited me for the Tamil Nadu State Conference. And I thank Vijayarani for a very affectionate introduction. Now, a beautiful lecture. You have really covered all aspects, and there's nothing theoretically which I can add to a lecture. And you had asked me to talk about how as we can prevent high-risk behavior. So I'm going to talk about that. And Ismail has asked me about practical tips. So I will discuss how do we approach case of adolescent who has brought up a risky behavior by their parents. So first of all, as pediatricians, we know that we have to increase community and parental awareness. Majority of parents as well as the students themselves do not know about the adolescent brain development and the vulnerability to adolescent risk behavior. And though we think they know about drugs and smoking and alcohol, we have been doing a lot of programs in school for the last 30 years. And we do the before and after workshop surveys. And we have found that most adolescents really do not know in depth the dangers of having alcohol before the age of 21 or smoking before the age of. So when we go and teach adolescents, parents, and teachers, what we not to give them is age appropriate messages, depending on their early, mid, and late adolescence, and concrete thinking. And what we highlight, just as we talk of abstinence, we tell everybody not to have sex, but we know that many of them are going, and then we talk of safe sex. Similarly, when we go to schools, can you hear me or shall I change my internet? Can you hear me properly?
Yes, madam.
You
I
can
think
hear
that
me, no? Just wave like this, then I change my connection because I'm getting some unstable connection message.
yeah, bandwidth is
Okay.
low. If
So shall
possible,
I
you
just
can
change?
change it.
I'll just change it. One second. Can you hear me better? Is this
Yes.
better? You can hear me?
Yeah, you are audible, madam. You can go, but the bandwidth is low, but you can still go.
Okay, I'll just try another one. 1 minute. Can you hear me better now? Is this better?
Yes,
Yes,
madam.
ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So what is most important is that most children are not aware of starting smoking early, like nicotine receptors proliferating, which can make them chronically addicted for life. Majority of them think of smoking only as cancer. And if you tell them that nicotine affects every artery of the body and it can cause erectile dysfunction and other aspects, that really makes them understand about the smoking. Similarly, when we talk of alcohol and teenage drinking, when we explain to them that teenage affects the hippocampus And MRI studies have shown reduction in the size of the hippocampus when they do teenage drinking, which can affect their academics and their memory. So we've given scientific evidence that by starting drinking or smoking before the age of 21, the damage which happens to their body and their brain is very long lasting. That is a better way of telling them to not to start smoking and drinking early than just tell them abstinence, don't smoke and don't drink. And we found that this method helps a lot. So we do a lot of discussions on tobacco and alcohol prevention by starting early. Second, we also talk about the parents and teachers have a myth that if you give them sexuality education or drug abuse education, they'll be tempted to experiment. Whereas research all over the world has shown that when they get this knowledge, they are more likely to delay experimenting, whether it is sexual or drugs or alcohol. And I think we have to now teach people about the bad effects of drugs in very great detail, especially date rape drugs and what can happen with the filming and the blackmailing. So I think very open communication with the permission of the parents and teachers in school is the only way to reduce risky behavior. Am I audible? Yeah. Now, what now do all adolescents go through risky behavior? No, because we found that though adolescent brain is very much vulnerable to risky behavior, majority of adolescents, Aram, are you able to hear me or not? Is there a
Yes,
problem?
ma'am.
Okay.
No, no, no issue, no issue.
Okay. So majority of adolescents who come from a stable, connected family, from protected communities and good schools, do not enter into such a risky risky behavior. Majority of them may experiment, but they don't have very serious risky behavior. So which are the adolescents which are more likely to have risky behavior? Aram has very beautifully said the risky factors both at community hem. Let me give an approach when parents come to me with a child who has got repeated complaints from school and community of high risk behavior. I first take a very good family history because we have to look for flag signs. Are there some organic problem in this child which is making him go into recurrent risky behavior? And very often in my 30 years of practice, I have found that these children may have ADHD, they may have impulse control disorder, may have conduct disorder, they may have oppositional defiant disorder. So, giving a good psychiatric analysis of a child who goes into recurrent risky behavior is very important because unless we treat the basic disease, any amount of counseling and trying to prevent high risk behavior will not be useful unless we combine with a psychiatrist. If from the head's history and the family history, I find there are no flag signs for any mental health issues, and this child is just a child who's quite normal but prone to thrill seeking personality, and then we try to find out what is he lacking in his life, why is he going for this recurrent risky behavior, and so we find has he got low self esteem issues, is because of that does he get vulnerable to peer pressure, does he have depression, because in that they try to soothe themselves by risky behavior. So you go into an in-depth analysis with head's approach and the family dynamics as to the root cause of why is this child indulging in risky behavior, because that is the only way to prevent further risky behavior. One thing I would also like to tell them that very often in many families the parental role model is very bad, and that provokes children into risky behavior. I'll give you a simple example. I had a very sad case where a boy was brought to me for insomnia, and the parents were all bothered. Ma'am, give him sleeping pills. He's not sleeping. And I said, but why is he not sleeping for the last 3 months? They said, no, he had some incident in his life. What was the incident? This boy, who was only 16 years old, drunk and driving, drove his father's ambassador and completely totaled it. Now, the parents were not bothered about the drinking behavior and totaling of the ambassador or the Mercedes. When I started talking to them about it, they said, ma'am, it's okay. We are rich enough. Fortunately, he didn't kill anybody. We can afford to buy a new Mercedes. But I said, aren't you bothered about his drinking and driving? He could have killed somebody. They said, no, ma'am, all his boys of this age do it. And his friend is the police commissioner's son. So they get away with it. Now, if you have parents like this, who are not concerned that their child is doing underage driving and that he's even causing accidents, you can imagine how difficult it is going to be to counsel this child not to have high risk behavior. So we have to go into deep history of the parental behavior. Are they having risky behavior? Many parents do crossing of the signal, driving without license, and they say you just give 100 rupees to the policeman and everything is done. So law breaking and risky behavior is a role model at home. So abroad, if your son or daughter do underage driving or drinking, the parents are punished, because how did you allow the keys to be lying around for the underage driving of your children? So role modeling by the parents is extremely important. And if the parents do not bother about the law and order situation of the country, and they themselves break laws, then the children are definitely going into high risk behavior. If you have a bar which is continuously open, if you're going to drink every day, it's very difficult to tell your teenager son or daughter not to drink. So role modeling by parents becomes extremely important to avoid risky behavior. Secondly, we have to know that uh, open communication between parents and children is very, very important. Most parents are very judgmental. So if a child comes and says, you had told me not to smoke, but I did try a cigarette today. Or you had told me not to drink, but I did have a glass of beer today. If a child is able to communicate to the parents that I did this risky behavior, and the parents do not then start castigating and scolding him, but sit with him and say, let us analyze that though you know that this is bad, why did you feel tempted to do it? So that you can analyze, so that next time the child is tempted, he can take care that, yes, last time I was tempted under various clauses, but next time I can control myself and not do it. But majority of the children are very afraid to tell their parents if they have done something like this, because the parents either will scold them a lot or immediately stop their access to parties or drinking or driving or whatever it is. So it is very important for parents to be there to tell their child that you should not do risky behavior, give them the life skills to prevent it, but at the same time tell them that we are here for you. So if you do some risky behavior, only we can help you. So please come and tell us. And of course, you are not going to cover them up. For example, if they are going to have a challan, you are not going to bribe the policeman, but we have to pay the challan, so they understand that yes, when they do some illegal act or when they break the law, they have to face the consequences. But they will, you'll of course try to find a good lawyer for him if he has done something which he has come into trouble. So basically, parents have to be role models, that they do not show risky behavior which is condoned by them, where the child will also do the risky behavior. If there's any flag signs of mental health issues, we need to work as a team with the parent, the child, and the mental health professionals, so that the risky behavior which is due to a mental health problem will be corrected only if we treat the mental health problem. Only counseling is not going to help. And the other thing is that risky behavior increases their prestige in the peers. The more likes they get, the more dopamine release they get. So we have to see that you can do something else which is sensational but not risky, which will give you a lot of accolades from your peers. And these are achievements. These are achievements in sports, in academics, in talents. So we can tell them that you can get your thrill, you can get your dopamine by doing something extraordinary in a positive way. And you don't have to do these dangerous TikTok dare movies. You have seen the TikTok movie where three people are standing. I mean, two people are standing and they ask a guy to come in the center, and both of them just kick him, and the child falls flat on his occiput. And we had a lot of serious head injuries after these TikTok videos. So there are a lot of TikTok videos which are going around, which have serious dares, which can really be harmful. And we have to talk to our children that don't try to have such high risk things just because you want to make a TikTok video, which will give you a lot of up likes. So this is more communication with parents and their children, and adolescent expert like us to go and communicate with parents and children to say that high risk behavior is not fun. It can damage you. It can damage your friends. We can show TikTok videos which show such dares and say, please don't attempt it. Have I got some more time or shall I wind up?
One more question is about this dating and other aspects, relationship with among teenagers.
What do you want me to say
The
about?
dating and group dating and individual dating, and how they are how they are going about the relationships.
Okay. So one thing, remember that most parents just stop their daughters not going for overnight picnics, not going for outside things. They never sit and literally discuss why are they afraid of overnight picnics? Why are they afraid of the girls staying away? Why are the girls the date rape drugs, the gang molestations? All this has to be discussed in detail, and the girl has to be told, we trust you fully. It is not that we don't want you to go out and enjoy, but these are the risks, and we are worried about the concerns of your safety. So if the girl can follow 5-6 points, that means her parents know where she's going, her parents know which are the other phone numbers they can contact in emergency, if her parents know who is the adult supervision, if they know exactly what is the venue, if they know who all are coming, then the parents will feel much more safer to give permission. And date rape drugs needs to be told, and this is very, very important. Now, Aram, you are asking about premarital relationship. Now, premarital relationship, frankly, we have to start with abstinence, because we have to explain to them that they're not emotionally, biologically, mentally still ready to face the consequences of early premarital sex activity. At the same time, we have to be practical, because today's young adults are exposed to a lot of sexual contents on the digital media. They've got early puberty, they have very delayed marriage, they're getting married up to 30 plus. So it is not practical to expect that the young adults will be totally free from premarital activity. But we have to explain to them the pros and cons, that if you have a relationship which is only platonic, only romantic, only very emotional, how is the consequences, versus a relationship where you have gone into physical intimacy. Because very often these children have very transient relationships, and they may have 2, 3, 4 relationships. And if they have gone into a physical relationship, the consequences are much deeper, and it is much difficult for a person who had a lot of physical relationship to enter into a stable partnership after marriage. So what we have to explain to them, what are the consequences of a relationship which is non-physical, what are the consequences of a relationship which is physical, and we have to leave the decision to them. And our job is to tell them the pros and cons. But if we start telling them premarital sex is bad, you should not have these things, you should not have affairs, all this is not going to be accepted.
Going to work.
Our job is to tell them what is the pros and cons of each relationship, and we have to leave it to their judgment and our upbringing.
Excellent.
Ismail, your comments.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Senthil and Dr. Swati Bave. Of course, Madam, you